Morning, everyone. Pura vida. Welcome to all these new people and volunteers. And welcome to our Dharma talk this week here at beautiful Bali Rica, in beautiful Costa Rica, and on the internet.
Raise your voice.
I've got my usual morning things, allergy to cats. But those cats aren't going, the allergy's staying. Anyway, Lisa is going to open our session today with a guided meditation. Take it away, Lisa.
All right. Let's start by closing our eyes, getting comfortable, finding a way that you can just be seated without efforting. And take 3 long, slow, deep breaths. Arriving here in the pavilion, letting the outside world drift away, and starting to bring your attention within. Let's begin with body scan to relax. So wherever you put your focus, that part of your body, just let all the muscles go and feel like you're relaxing that part. So let's start with your toes. Moving into your feet, up the ankles, lower legs, into your knees, and your upper legs, feeling all the legs, feet, everything just sinking into the floor, to the seat, towards the earth. Moving into your seat, your glutes and your hips, letting them really start to feel heavy, planted where you're sitting, almost merging with the earth. Continue on up through the lower abdomen, to your midsection, through your lungs, to your chest, allow your breath to carry away any tension. If you need to sigh, do that too. Relaxing up into your collarbone and your shoulders. Take a moment to just check in that your whole back is relaxed. Cascade down your arms, all the way to your fingertips. Just letting your arms be heavy and hang. Moving to the neck. Extra time here, as most people carry tension in their neck and their shoulders. Up into your jaw. And up through your entire head, your face, skull, scalp. Now perceiving yourself as a whole, softened, relaxed. And from that sense of relaxed softness, dive inward. Inward towards that self that is at the center of all of it. Peaceful self. Abiding in the self that is quiet. That is just naturally relaxed. Has no need for anything but simply being present. This quiet space of simply being resides your true self, your truth. This part of you just knows what is for you without thinking about it. He just is. So we'll sit for another minute, just feeling it. Become accustomed to this sensation. While you might feel you could stay here for quite a while, know that you can visit this anytime. So while maintaining this feeling, decide that you're going to come back into conscious awareness of the world around you, and you'll take in the world more from this stable self. As you're ready, slowly opening your eyes. Just let yourself be gently present. Namaste.
Thank you very much. It's everybody's still here. We're very relaxed now. That was very, very nice. Here comes mine. Okay. I told you that I didn't have a talk prepared today. And I'm going to tell you up front why. Because I'm going to give you something factual in a minute that so caught my attention. It like opened the floodgates of this thing leads to that thing leads to another thing. And so I want to just throw this little factual bit of history out and then tell you some of the things that on a broad level that it brought up within me. I usually try not to talk that much, but I will today. And then maybe we can all enjoy doing the same thing with something that catches our attention, and maybe we can all work on this one today because it does involve the Dharma. But here's how it goes. On June 25th of 1967, 55 years ago, a major event took place in communications. The event was the BBC's, take a bow, our one Brit here, presenting the very first worldwide television program. It was via satellite, and it went to 5 continents, and I think 14 countries. I have to look it back up, so it might be 17. But if you consider that for a moment, that's not really all that long ago. And when that happened, it opened up such potential, because for the first time in human history, people could connect to one another with communication that was not only verbal, but it was visual at the same time. The potential for bringing about wonderful transformations in human connections was right out there, and it was exciting. It happened to be that June 1st of that year was what was later dubbed the beginning of the Summer of Love. Okay, so we had the Summer of Love. We had the month of June. I love the month of June. My grandmother was named June Rose, and when I found that out, I was already a full-grown adult. She was long gone. And I thought, my gosh, I never knew my great-grandmother, but she must have had a romantic streak to name her child June Rose. It's a month of celebrations, of graduations and weddings and all good things. Anyway, the theme song, going back to the satellite show, the theme song for the production, which was aptly named Our World. The theme song for this show was the Beatles. They were asked to come up with a song that would be appropriate for our world and for this new connection. And the song they came up with and performed live, much to BBC's nervousness, but they performed it live, was All You Need Is Love. Love is all you need. We all know it, but many of us, I didn't until I listened to this, that was their song for that particular show. So the things I was thinking about, in addition to how wonderful June was, one of them was that we talk a lot about living in the now. And sometimes it comes across as, don't live in the past, kind of push away both the past and the future to be in the now. But that makes me very uncomfortable. I made you too. In that our now is here because of all of our past. Each of us has our own past, our own time, our own stories, our own circumstances. And what the Be Here Now movement was really about is not to eradicate the past, but to use discretion and do the observation and analysis and memories with clarity by trying to be non-judgmental and letting them happen and come up for you. And those things that are negative and need to be removed, that you want to get rid of. That's where we do this. The good stuff we hold on to. One meaning of the many meanings of the word Dharma. There are like 18 definitions in the dictionary. Is to place and to hold. Well, places can be a lot of different things. It can be a hold. It can be whatever. But I think that what is meant here is not that we erase, but that we are selective and we're positive and we take what has been for what is now, how we got here, what we're doing with our now. We do it all in the framework of the breathing now. Moment now is only one breath at a time. Now and then come together for the future, right there at that moment, with each breath. So again, if you have had sort of a misconception that we're not supposed to go to the past and have memories, or we're not supposed to live in the future with aspirations and hopes and dreams, it's a matter of context. You're here, you're centered, you're stable, you're connected. And then you take from your experiences for what they are, and you make the most of them. Does that make sense to everybody? Has anybody besides me ever been kind of a little uncomfortable with this, just living for now, like there was no past and no future? It's really kind of pushed on us a little bit. And it's really not what is intended. Can you see how you can integrate the past with the now? The now is where you're at. I love that word. Where are you at? Where you are. Okay, and it goes to the future from there. But it is a matter, again, I love the word discretion, of what is appropriate for the now and what needs to be removed and what needs to be enhanced and carried forward. What have we brought forward that we want to hold? One of the very first things, as I say, in the Dharma is to hold and to place. And in the Dhammapada, right at the beginning, it says that where you place your mind is the direction of your life. So as you go through the past, you bring it into the now, and really the future pretty much will take care of itself, but you certainly don't discard it. You just don't want to disappear into it. So here we are. It's 1967. It was the summer of love for me personally. I met the man of my life, married to him for 36 years before he passed away, on January 1st of that year. And we were married before the end of the year. So I had my own thing going. And I will tell you, as always, yeah, it was it. Okay. Anyway, but there is always the other side of the coin. And the other side of the coin was we were deeply entrenched in the Vietnam War. We were very tired and still trying to bring into fruition the civil rights movement. Women were trying to figure out where we fit in society as both the family and the working environment. It was a very turbulent and disturbed time. So you had both of these things going on. There's always its equanimity. But today, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about 1967, about that era. And I realize how similar it is to what we're going through now. Same things with different packaging. So yes, everything is impermanent. But there's also another saying, the more things change, the more they stay the same. It seems that the potential, the wonderful hopes that came with international, worldwide communication between people didn't work out quite the way we thought it would. Just as the summer of love was crushed along the way, and somehow or other in the process, the flower people became those dirty hippies. So you've always got the light and you've always got the dark. And what you do with them is your business and your affair. And it is what Jeff likes to call detached involvement. And this is what we take to the cushion with us when we go to memories with all consciousness that we are on memory lane. We're still now, but we are bringing that into now. So you've got this detached involvement, and you look and you see all the joys and all the sorrows, and all the plus and all the minuses. And you can't help, or at least I couldn't help, but compare. And what I was comparing was that in May, I was sick for a week. And so I spent time listening to things on my voice recognition wasn't working. So I was just using my little telephone. And the only way I could get the news was they go to news and they have these little postage stamp things, and I'd hit it and it would tell me what it was about. And I'd listen, and it would be Ukraine or this or that or the other. And I decided that if I didn't want it, I just went to the next little post. Punched until I found something I wanted to hear. Well, for about, half the month that I was first sick and then quarantining myself, I didn't have COVID, just a stomach thing, but I wasn't going to take any chances with anything. It kept coming up, this Johnny Depp trial. And I would just go, I don't want to watch that. I'm going to go on to the next thing. So I'd go on to the next thing. And then I punched it one day, and before it went off, it caught my attention. Whoa! And I said, whoa, what is this about? And I started listening. And I will tell you, it is a tragedy worthy of Shakespeare. It is a very, very tragic court case, or trial, or life. And what is so standout is how a liar affects not only their victim, but all the people around them. The devastation that is created by an angry person with vengeance in their heart, telling lies, is staggering when you actually sit down and with detached involvement look at it. So I got pretty interested in that, and I got thinking about the last few years. everything. Now we're watching, if you're an American, you're looking at the congressional hearings. Again, lies, lies, things built on lies. And as I say, I run everything through the lens of the Dharma, and this takes you right back to right speech. And I wonder, looking back at 1967, we had lots of liars that we had every one of these villains. We had every one of the victims. But we were somehow sneakier about it. This is all so out in the open. It's so blatant. I don't know where we're going with this, but I'm observing that it's a time to really maybe rethink civility and let it start with us. Just go extra into being civil and telling the truth and watching your behavior. On the Eightfold Path, everything is connected. The wisdom says that violence and lies are violent. They lead to violence. Violence only begets violence. It just makes everything worse. So that's the wisdom. The behavior is all the horrible things that come from people who do lie, who do steal, who do kill, etc., etc. And of course, the antidote is right here. You're sitting on it. It's again to realize that the world can be too much with us, and we need to rest in loving awareness within ourselves. Because if you're expecting the world out there to make you happy, or to be really, really wonderful, in many ways it is, but you have to have equanimity. So this brings us really back to my thinking about these various aspects. One thought just kind of went into another, and I would like to ask Mark, maybe Natalie, or anyone of you, to kind of open up and let's talk a little bit about love from the Dharma point of view. What do you mean I read that? Right. I'm going to ask Mark to read this. Let's go back to the positive. Don't dwell on the negative. So we recognize we're not denying. I'm looking for it. It's right here. Oh, okay. Starting, there's a marker there.
Right there.
It's like a little ink spot, and it goes to the end. Okay.
It goes to the end on the next
goes
page.
to the end. So if we are to use a Dharma phrase, if we're Dharma bums, you know, I was born before that. My generation was the beat generation. Jack Kerouac, all those people. I already was a married woman with 3 children when the hippies came along, but I had the wonderful good fortune to become very good friends with some of them. And so I still think of them as my people. But anyway, it all comes back to love, and I'm bringing this back around in my own inept way to the Beatles song. If you have one world, what do you need? You can't have one world unless you have the love. All you need is love. I think the Buddha would have loved this song. I think he would have gone along humming it, very happy. And you're going to do some of that in a minute. All right. Anyway, this is the sutra, the teaching of the Buddha. We cut out some of the initial stuff, and we'll get just down to the part of it. This is loving kindness, which is our theme here. And so just take a deep breath and relax, and we'll take it from the Dharma point of view.
Let no one deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none be anger or hatred or wish harm to another. As a mother watches over her child, willing to risk her own life to protect her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world. Standing or walking, sitting or lying down, during all one's waking hours, may one remain mindful of this heart and this way of being, that it is said to be the sublime abiding. Unattached to speculations, views, and sense desires, the pure-hearted one with clear vision, being freed from all sense desires, will never be reborn in the cycles of suffering. Om Mani Padme.
Om Mani Padme. So you get a choice, you know. That's the third noble truth. You have a choice. You have to realize you can't delude yourself. That's in the second. But it comes down to survival in what is now a very, very turbulent social upheaval with lots of violence. And it all seems to express itself in the lack of civil behavior and talk on even a kind of ordinary level. So it means to be aware of that, let go of what you need to let go of, and don't think that's all there is, because there's always the other side of the coin. You never know what's coming up next. So Mark, see if someone will jump in here and have a comment. You can see.
I can.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, I know they're here. I hear them.
I'd like to throw something in.
Yeah, please do.
So because Jeff's not here today and I am,
Mhm.
one of the things I looked at, I only had a day to sort of be prepared. I considered, well, if Jeff was here, what would he say? And
Detached involvement.
detached involvement. But from a psychological, psychiatric point of view, there is something that came up, and it worked really well with something that I've been exploring for the past 6-7 months in sense expression. And that was that there were a few studies that were done about lying. And one in Texas, Art, and I'm sorry, the name is written there. I can't say his last name right now, but if you want it, I can give it to you. He did one where he studied the reactions on the human body of what happens with lying. And he said as soon as the lie has left the lips, we immediately go into a state of confusion.
Mhm.
We go, there is cortisol that is released in the brain. And when it's released in the brain, it naturally fights and suppresses our anxiousness and our worry, because we've moved into a state of discomfort. And what ends up in essence doing is attacking the body. It's actually not really good for the bones on long periods of duration. That's the first thing that happens. The second thing that happens is the mind splits. Because on one hand, it's trying to remember the truth of what actually happened, and at the same time, it's trying to remember what the lie was that actually happened. Mm-hmm. And so now it's operating on two different levels, and it's unable to do that effectively. And then what ends up happening is that the body immediately goes into sympathetic nervous system, which is obviously fight and flight. If this is sustained, the person will become angry because they're unable to remain calm and centered because their body is in a comfortable state. And if the person is a prolific liar, the next day, the person will see that lie as an absolute truth. Mm-hmm. Or if they're not a prolific liar, they will be so upset with themselves that they won't be able to look at the person that they lied to, and they'll always walk away from them, always try to be away from them. So that was the first one. The second thing was a woman did a study out of one of the universities. Again, I can cite it in a few moments, whereby she took 110 people. This was in 2014, and she told half the group, no lying on any level, no lying, and not the big ones, the small ones, like, oh, the reason I was late for work is, those kind of lies. And the other group, they were told, go ahead, live your life normally. And so they were the control group. And then after a period of 10 weeks, at the 5-week mark, she started to notice that what was happening is the people that were not in the control group were experiencing more happiness. They had less headaches. They had less throat ailments. They had less colds. They had less body discomfort. And the other group was actually experiencing all of those things on a regular basis. And so we're an intelligent group here. The mathematics of this is fairly obvious. But from when I was looking into it, I found that, isn't it interesting? And I talked about this a month ago, I think, where I was talking when we're going to a destination, when we're going to a place, and that is the forefront of our mind, and this is the direction we're being called. As we get closer to that destination, we become lighter, brighter, healthier, more robust, and far more energetic. And part of the reason is because we're moving towards a truth. And as we move towards that truth, we release ourselves of the discomforts of putting too much energy into a mistruth.
It takes a lot of energy to hold up a structure made out of lies.
Yeah, because first of all, you have to hold that structure and make it valid.
And every lie has to have another lie to cover it, which has to have layers and layers and layers.
And then you have the truth working on you, and then you have both working against each other. It's a fantastic amount of energy. It's easier to take all of that energy aside and just put it into the direction of where you're intended to go.
Yeah, but we still don't want to tell our best friend that, yes, she looks fat in those pants.
One of the
You
things
have to use, that's where I get the discretion.
But what we can do, which as a man, I've confronted that. What do you think, dear?
Yes.
The answer is, I've always liked you in another pair of pants.
Oh, okay. Or something.
Or I've liked you in that skirt.
Nope.
And the person.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
So,
our snarky.
But the point is there's two things of this. One, don't ask the question if you're concerned. If you have worries, then chances are you're already feeling it. But the other part is why would I lie? Because if I'm going to lie about something as significant about that, where does my partner wonder about the other things that I can also hide and not tell the truth?
Loss of confidence. A loss of trust.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, jump in.
My grandfather, who I always looked up to and thought
Talk
was
up a little
wise.
bit for
Oh, my grandfather, who I always looked up to and thought was wise, always said that there's such things as a white lie. When you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, you don't want to embarrass somebody,
Right.
that it might not be the truth, but it's slightly different. I challenged that question because you made it clear that that's still a confusion, an internal confusion.
Can I reflect
That's why
that back?
I'm bringing it up, because I'm
Absolutely.
always wondering about that.
Can I reflect something too?
Please.
Okay, and I'm going to ask you to watch my body language. You're a really nice guy.
What are you doing?
I'm making a face.
Okay.
It turns out that I really do think you're a nice guy. I was working. The point is that at some point, even the white lie, the receiver of the white lie knows in their heart that there's a mistruth. And now anything that I say after that point becomes suspect.
So a lie's a lie.
A lie is a lie.
But fair enough.
Please.
Speak up for the
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
There you go, kind of holler.
Bring your voice in.
Okay. I'm actually very focused on that topic.
Okay.
I have been for quite some time. My intention for
Perfect
coming
timing
here
for me.
this summer was to work on a book that
Nice.
directly covers that topic. That's
Oh.
part of the book. It's about integrity and authenticity, but it's also about, it comes from the perspective of we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and being spiritual beings, we're living in a body, and that spiritual being affects the body, and the body affects the spiritual being. So when we're in a state of authenticity and integrity, ethically, morally, making mindful, sound choices, we're affected. It's like a braid. If you braided your hair and one of the sections of the braid were cut, you wouldn't have the integrity in your emotional state or your spiritual state or your physical state, because they all affect each other. So yes, lying affects the body. Definitely. It also affects the spirit.
Oh, yeah.
And what happens when we lie is we become spiritually ill as well. And that spiritual illness continues because we're connected to other realms.
That may be the
Consciously
start
aware
of
of
it
that
all.
or not, we're connected because we're all the collective. All of us
Absolutely.
are one, whether we're aware of that or not consciously. So we're affecting the people we have moved in that
That's right.
because energetically we're connected.
Agreed.
Do you believe on a spiritual basis a lot of why people are reluctant to go into themselves? As one woman said, I can't meditate alone. It's like going into a bad neighborhood. You know, that we are really hesitant because we have not really, in Western culture particularly, been brought up to love ourselves. It's attached to being selfish and self-centered and narcissistic and all. A genuine love that we are Buddha nature. But there is that sense of, oh, you know, I'm guilty. And I really don't want to face the truth about myself. We have to work on the, what would you say, the positive angles or
The truth.
being able to be with that detached involvement, and you can say, yeah, I used to tell a lot of lies and I'm not going to try and get over it, and it's not going to hang with me forever. But I can face myself with compassion. But
Okay. To add to that, and we're obviously going there, is that these are the scientific responses and the spiritual responses that we're feeling, and how we're sharing and how other people receive what we're sharing. But there is an out to all of this. And first of all, it's the maths on it, depending on where you look, that we lie twice a day or 11 times a week or a certain amount of times per month, that everybody does it. And it's those white lies that Arthur was talking about as well. You know, I was late because the bus wasn't there. Well, not the case. However, the antidote to that is your Sangha, but it's also your private practice, whereby you choose to speak the truth. You know, we have the Eightfold Five, we have the 5 precepts that are reminding us that we can go in and do these other things. We can engage in them. Nobody's going to do it. Even the Buddha doesn't say don't do it. The Buddha says refrain, step away from it if you can. And in the process of doing, we end up sharing. You said sound, and I like that sound choice. The sound choice is actually the words that come out of our voice. That's the sound, the resonance of it, the way that another person receives it. I immediately, when I did that little thing with Arthur, I immediately took it away and reminded him that I actually do believe that he is a nice person and a very kind person. To free him of any energy unintended or in it, anything that I may have put towards him that might have not been kind, but it was also untrue. When we speak these words to one another, when we share these words with one another, the other person knows when we're telling the truth. They just know. So what harm do we have in sharing that? And I think this is what the Buddha is suggesting to us, is saying, you know what, if you want to remove yourself from the cycle of suffering, that I read in that piece of paper for Ruthie, if you want to remove yourself from it, you actually have to remove yourself from it. You actually have to move into the direction of the answers that you're looking for, and that's that destination that I was talking about. The past is important, but as in writing a book, you don't keep writing everything that happened in the first chapter in chapter 27 or chapter 85. At some point, you leave those chapters in the past. They have influenced the ongoing chapters, but they don't need to be repeated over again. We got the message. You know what happened, and we saw the transition. And I think this is what we're learning through the Dharma, what we're learning through the Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path, 5 precepts, the 6 or 8 or 10 perfections. And it's the ability to be in concert, and I like the word concert, with a group of people that who have the same values and the same intentions, that aren't afraid to speak the truth and say, this is how I feel. This is how I feel. I can be right, I can be wrong, but this is how I feel, and then open that up into conversation.
That's it. Go ahead.
Neil Donald Walsh, author and spiritual. He says, speak your truth, but soothe your words with peace,
That's
or
right.
kindness, or love.
That's right. Use discretion and
You can
discrimination.
say it, but you don't have to say it in a way that
Distinguish how you do it.
Yeah.
There's another, you were talking about studies that have been done. Back in the 50s, there was a woman whose name is completely out of my head now, who had a cult following in California. And the cult truly believed, they'd been working on it since the 20s, that the world was going to end on either Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve or Christmas Day. And she had a pretty good following. And of course, the day came and went, and the world didn't come to an end. This psychiatrist got really interested in the fact he had some clients, I guess, who were in this cult, that instead of saying, we made a mistake, it's no good, they doubled down. They became more loyal to the woman who had misled them. They simply shifted in a delusory fashion. Well, it was just the wrong date. It's really going to happen, but we're going to do it now in another time. So they moved it up. So he became really interested and began to study members of this cult and why they doubled and tripled down with loyalty to someone who had totally misled them. And what came out of it was, and this implies something for people who tell themselves lies, you have invested who you are in a belief. And when that belief turns out to be wrong, you cannot let it go. It's so important in Buddhism to learn to let go. Renunciation is the very first thing for detached evolvement. But it was a really fascinating, because we're watching now, politically, people who can't let go of the fact they were misled and they invested their personalities, themselves into it. Again, don't feel funky about watching. If you can forget the outcome of this death trial and watch it as if you had never seen it, watch yourself watching it, because you are drawn in at the beginning by this woman as a victim. And she raises in you such empathy and compassion. And then one by one by one, the lies come out. And all that has evolved from the lies she has told, and her hatred and her vitriol, until there is no denying it. You can't, there's no way. But there are still a few people who will deny it because they believe that women are just victims of men. And that's kind of the dark side of some of the Me Too movement. She put herself up as being the ambassador for the ACLU of the Me Too movement. And the stories are so fantastic, even they make you scratch your head. You just can't quite be true. But then the truth, they finally investigate and they set up traps. And boy, is she a wicked woman. So there you are. And now the trial is over. Now you know. But along the way, you have had to completely reverse your opinions as the facts become evident. The difference between facts and truth sometimes. So it's it's a drama, just as the congressional hearings are a drama. The Ukraine war is a drama. All these things are dramas. But watch ourselves watching the world. What's going on out there will inform you a lot about yourselves, I think.
I agree. And to add to that, there are two things about it. So when we witness something that feels like an untruth before us, it might actually be true. We're just
That's right.
We might just be confused about everything, and we had a different perspective on something.
Yeah, it takes a lot of evidence to really switch sometimes.
But whatever the situation is, when we recognize we're in the realm of an untruth that's being presented before us, this is where the acts of love and compassion come.
Mm-hmm.
This is where we recognize that there's maybe more to the story than perhaps I know
Mm-hmm.
or I can think about. And this is the part where the heart comes in,
Right.
and it says, no matter what's happening here, there is a discomfort. This person, whether they're telling the truth or not telling the truth, they're in some sort of pain.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that pain is right now. And rather than prejudge or get into it, maybe I should just listen.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I really like about the communities that I'm in the First Nation Native communities is that when they're sitting in a circle and people are talking, whoever has the talking stick or the feather, when that person talks, nobody interrupts. And it might take an hour before the feather gets around to the other side of the room where somebody says, and what you said was, and by that time you've heard many different stories,
Right.
many different perceptions of the same thing.
Right.
And so your initial reaction was, that's not the way it happened. That's not, by the time it gets around to you and you're one holding the feather, you've heard a certain different number of stories about the same topic and your view has changed. You're not the same person who originally heard it. And so now when you comment, your perception is probably more based in truth and your heart is a little bit more open. Maybe you have more compassion for the way the person told the story. And to what Ruthie, I feel, has pointed out rather beautifully in the beginning, was that we have this mechanism by which things are sent out to the world and it's viewed as being a truth.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel what we're also talking about is that everybody has the ability to sense what is true and not to react right away. Maybe take a deep breath and sit on our cushion and observe without getting involved in it and trying to
Things
fix
are
it or
seldom
change it.
what they seem.
Exactly. And again, this is where we like the Buddha, because the Buddha didn't say you need to figure this out, but the Buddha did say healthy skepticism is important.
Skepticism.
And so we can listen to something, we can perceive it,
And
we can
be
receive
open to evidence. Don't close your mind with a preconceived notion that something has happened because it sort of fits into your scenario of life. Be willing to listen to the evidence. And sometimes you have to get beat over the head back. On terms of compassion, still stuck on the death drive. In terms of compassion, along the way when I started listening to it, I listened to a panel of young and not so young attorneys who were evaluating things as they went along. And as time goes on, they really come to, this woman is just like she's like incredibly wicked. By the end, or right near the end, she is so out of control, and the evidence is so overwhelming that they start getting a little quieter. And then one of them at one point, after she goes into one of her tirades, and they listen to the tape, he says, she needs help. Compassion kicked in. Yes, she's wicked. Yes, she's doing terrible things. Yes, she's destroyed his life. But up to that point. But she needs help. Stop hating on her. Let's stop. I mean, we're just all hating on her all the time. But let's don't do that anymore. She's a victim of herself just as much as he is.
Can I add to that one
So that's
step further?
that.
First of all, my daughter considers Johnny Depp her spirit animal.
So do a lot of people. So do a lot of people.
I howled when I heard that. So we know that he's certainly given something. But I'd like to offer another perspective of Johnny Depp that has been talked about. I haven't followed it. I've noticed
I'll
it.
tell you what, if you like Shakespeare, watch this.
Yeah. But in fairness, this is an extreme professional,
Mm-hmm.
an exemplary professional at his craft.
Mm-hmm.
And in so doing, for months and months, or in the case of Jack Sparrow, years, he becomes that person.
Mm-hmm.
I had the pleasure of standing beside him near Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom. They were like 4 feet away from me, and they were on set in character.
Uh-huh.
And Keira and Orlando were having a nice conversation. Johnny Depp, without a doubt, was Jack Sparrow.
Uh-huh.
There was no.
And he is who he plays.
So here is a man who has devoted himself to his craft. And the old saying is, who is he when he comes home?
Yeah.
But he's not Johnny
That's
Depp.
one of the reservations everybody
he's
had to
Gilbert.
begin with.
He's Gilbert Grape.
Yeah.
He's Johnny Depp, or Johnny Depp, but he's
Edward
also Jack Sparrow.
Scissorhands.
Every character that he's ever played. So not only is he processing his own internal life, but all of these other characters and their perceptions.
Mm-hmm.
That would be very difficult to be around.
Okay.
And so it's not surprising that he has danced with alcohol and drugs.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's not
Well, he
surprising
definitely is.
that
Has
he
a
would.
problem
We talked about
with
the anger.
addictions.
The anger
got
that comes in.
serious.
Is he as bad though?
No,
That's
he's
what she
not
pointed
bad.
out. Probably not. But we also realize that she has experienced something that none of us ever have experienced.
Well, he could not fulfill what she wanted.
Exactly.
And the more he moved away from her,
Mm-hmm.
because she's a hysterical person, and the more he escaped, because he's not, the more she got worse,
Yeah.
until it became really violent. And he had to engage in actual surveillance and whatnot because no one would believe him otherwise. And so that was done. Anyway, that's enough of that.
We have a few moments
Is it
if you want to
though?
open it before.
Yeah. Is it? Okay, well, no, now we're going to do something fun. Everybody stretch for a minute. And we're turning the floor over to Sandy. Normally, at the end of, it's a time to end, isn't it? We've
It's close. No,
Okay.
we've got some.
Sandy
has to
is
live.
going to be our music leader tonight. Instead of doing meta the way I normally do, we are going to have a sing-along. And Sandy's in charge of it. And
Okay. Well, okay. Okay.
now
Well,
I only made 17 copies, so you'll have to share. Here are the lyrics.
Lisa, this is going to be the ultimate kumbaya moment.
This is
That's all I can say. Okay? Can we share?
Oh yeah, spread them out and hand them
Wait a minute, is
around.
that?
Take them.
Oh, wait a minute.
What are you doing?
I don't know.
Okay.
Just hand them out. There's some,
Okay, this is
pass
just
them.
the
Just pass them out. That's
Just pass it around.
Look, they can't put all
Okay.
you need is love 45 times on it.
Oh,
So they just have the 4 sentences plus all you need.
oh,
is love.
okay.
So it's a little tricky, but a lot of us really don't. Now pass them over this
Yeah,
way.
pass them over that way. There you
Pass
go.
them over that
So if
way.
you don't get the lyrics, we just say da 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 da.
Too late.
Yeah, right. Well, we're going to play it
That's
for
from
now,
hell.
but the lyric lines are there together for the
Here.
four main.
Ruthie?
I can't see it, so pass it.
We could use a couple more.
Couple more, okay.
So,
Okay, I'm gonna keep one for
well,
myself.
they go-
Is that okay?
Yeah, I gave you the one that's clipped.
Oh, can I have the clipped one back, please?
Okay, trade.
Okay. Oh,
It's long gone.
That's all right. It
There it
doesn't,
is.
it just has all of it.
Right there.
It was the first one I printed out.
Did it all the way.
oh, okay.
It doesn't make any difference. It just
Okay,
has
okay.
all, it just has too much stuff on it. I had to figure out how to plug it in and print it.
Okay, well, some people might even know these lyrics if they grew up in the 60s, right?
Yeah.
Or if you didn't.
Yeah, but it's the lines in the,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
the lines in the regular lyrics that people have forgotten.
Okay.
Everybody knows, yeah.
Okay, I've just gotta get this on my iPhone.
So now here you go.
Okay. And this is Ruthie's idea. Okay,
Yeah.
this is Ruthie's
This
idea.
started with all you need is one.
Exactly. Like protecting myself. Well, it'll be fun. Okay.
It began with 1967, the theme song for One World. So we're going to end with it today. So there you go.
Kumbaya?
That's 55 years ago. It's still every bit as valid today as it was then. And I think we think sometimes things are so bad. Well, they are. They really are. But this isn't the first time. Then there's always the other side of the coin. So we just get nicely self-centered and move to that side of the coin as much as we possibly can without denying that the other exists. We don't have to go there voluntarily. Okay. All right. So if we want to do a meta and we have time, we can do it.
We always have time for that.
Okay. For those of you who are new, I'm going to name someone that you bring that person to your mind. And then I'm going to say a sentence to that person, addressing them. And you repeat it to yourself in your head. Okay, so I'll say it out loud. You speak it to the chosen person. We begin with ourselves. Start from the inside out. Go out. Put your hands together in your lap or in prayer position, however you want them. Close your eyes. Love, love, love. Bring yourself to mind. And say to yourself, may I be well. May no harm come to me. May I live with ease. That's equanimity. May I live with ease, calm, and peaceful. May I be happy. Take a deep breath, smile to yourself, and bring to mind someone you love with all your heart. Look at that person. Say their name. Smile at them. And say, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. And now we turn to a neutral person. We're widening out. And to this neutral person, it may be someone who's sort of a neighbor. You see them walking the dog in the morning and you wave, but you've never even met them. They're just there. Or someone who waits on you. If you don't know his or her name, address them as friend. And say, dear friend, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. And now, with another deep breath, you bring to mind someone with whom you are in conflict. It could be someone that you're in conflict with right now, or it could be a very old grudge, one that you've never let go of. But you bring this person right into your frontal vision. Don't look away. Look at them. And without any malice, say to them, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. And now, taking another deep breath, and maybe 2 or 3, take your hands and place them over your heart. It's the only part of us that symbolically embraces everyone, all sentient beings. 8 billion of us on this planet. Who knows how many other sentient beings are out there somewhere. And as you kind of visualize this really unbelievable phantasmagoria array of humanity, say this: may all beings everywhere on this plane and all other planes be well. May all beings everywhere be safe. May all beings everywhere be free from suffering. May all beings everywhere be happy. And now you just sit silent, still, and let it all kind of move into a cellular spacing. When you're ready, open your eyes, release your hands, smile at your neighbor, and we close with this little Unitarian benediction. And I'm going to say it, and you say it after me. You kind of go into this. And it goes like this. Go in peace.
Go in peace.
Go making peace.
Go making peace.
living gently,
living gently,
loving mightily,
loving mightily,
and bowing to the mystery.
and bowing to the mystery.
Thank you all. We'll see you again.
Thank you,
Thank
Ruthie.
you, Ruthie and Mark.
And Mark,
Wonderful.
yeah, thank you.
That was
Yeah.
so beautiful
That
today.
was really,
Very nice.
Well, as I say, I couldn't figure out how to put in any order.